Speaking to me now is Tony Wynne, the president of the Welsh Amateur Boxing Association. What's your job or your role day to day within the Welsh Amateur Boxing Association, Tony?
You name it, I'm doing it. I'm the chairman of the Southern Division, 42 clubs. I'm the chairman of the Referees and Judges Association of Wales. I'm the officially in charge at major tournaments and championship events, particularly if they're held in the Southern Division. I'm a member of the Ronda Boxing Club, of which my brother John is the coach. What else am I doing?
I mean, how long have you been involved in boxing?
66 years. I started as a 14-year-old schoolboy. I boxed up until I was 32. I boxed 17 times for Wales. I was Welsh featherweight champion in 67, 68.
Which amateur boxing club did you box in when you were a schoolboy?
Oh, I boxed for a number of clubs altogether as a schoolboy. At that particular time, when I was sort of 14, 15, 16, there were a number of clubs in the Rhondda Valley. Practically every public house had a gym upstairs. And I went from gym to gym to gym and different coaches just to get the experience and get taught the art of the game, as they call it, by different coaches. But my main club was the Ronda Boxing Club. And then I boxed, when the Ronda Club closed, I boxed for Bargoed for 2 seasons with Di Gardner. And it's from there that I retired and then straight away took up refereeing and judging. So
in your time in boxing, I'm guessing you've probably refereed quite a lot of well-known, famous Welsh boxers, so here's your opportunity to do some name dropping. Which famous Welsh fighters have you refed over the years?
Oh, there's so many. I've been thinking about writing a book, you know, because I've refereed so many. You name them, and 9 out of 10 at some time or other I've refereed them, you know. Even guys that have gone on to win world titles that I've refereed at the old AIBA international events or the ABA championships, as we used to call them years ago.
I mean, did you ref like guys like Joe Calzaghe? I mean, of course, he's probably Wales' most famous boxer of recent years.
I refereed Joe Calzaghe a couple of times, yes. I did Nazim Hamid, who kindly sent me down a painting of himself, an autographed, which is hanging in my passage at the moment. My memory is not that good now at 80 years of age. So for me to tell you who else I've refereed, I'd have to write them all down. I'll look in the book.
Well, I've got to say, Tony, you're looking in very good shape for 80 years old. So, I mean,
I train 2 to 3 times a week in Merthyr, in the DW Sports. I work out there, I do a bit of skipping, I work the bags, 3 or 4 rounds on the bags. I've been today. I've done 10 minutes on the bike, 10 minutes on the row machine, 10 minutes on the treadmill, and I've done 4 3-minute rounds on the bags. And then went and swam 10 lengths in the pool.
Oh well, fair play to you, Tony, fair play to you. Put me to shame. What changes have there been in amateur boxing in your time? What are the most obvious changes?
Well, there's loads of changes, and unfortunately now they're changing every year. IABA are bringing out different rules. I don't know who sits in these committees. Some of them are a waste of time. A lot of our referees and judges are not very happy with some of the rules that they've now introduced. But
I mean, what are the rules in particular that local referees and judges are not happy with? Again, I would have to seriously think about this before I make any remarks, I suppose. Being an AIBA past AIBA referee, and now being chairman of the referees and judges, I suppose I'd have to think twice about what I would say regarding the change of rules if we are not happy about. So I would keep that to myself, I think. Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, amateur referees and referees in professional boxing and amateur boxing come in for criticism from time to time.
But it is, generally speaking, in amateur boxing, it is a voluntary thing. Most of the refs don't get paid. You give up hours of your week every week, basically.
People don't realise how much time we give. I think they accept the fact that the coaches give hours and hours and hours of their time, but they don't realise how much time we give. And we take a lot of verbal as well, which is part of the sport, I suppose. You know, we're all used. I am in particular used to taking that now anyway. But we had an incident now this last weekend where the parent of a boxer disagreed with the decision, and we had to get him removed from the hall. You know, a bit unfair, but we don't get a great deal of it now.
I mean, if anyone's watching this interview and they think, no, I wouldn't mind being a referee or a judge, or fancy inquiring about becoming a referee or a judge, how do they go about it?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we are desperate. We've got a recruitment drive going on. We've got 4 divisions, north, south, east and west. The eastern division are struggling badly. The west are not too bad. The south, we're not too bad either. The north is struggling again. But anybody that would be interested, if they telephone me or send me an email, I would meet them somewhere, tell them what it's all about, which I'm doing quite regularly at the moment. But when they find out they're not getting paid for it, it's another story. But we have recruited 3 new guys in our division this season. But if anybody is interested, I'd be only too pleased to meet up with them. They wouldn't have to come and see me, I'll go and see them.
How healthy do you think Welsh amateur boxing is at the moment, generally speaking, in terms of attendance in clubs and success in the ring?
Well, it's flourishing at the moment. We've got a fairly new board of directors, as you probably know. It's the Welsh Amateur Boxing Association Limited Company now. And financially we are quite sound. As a couple of years ago we were struggling and had a lot of bad publicity in the press. But the new chairman, Derek McAndrews, has improved things tremendously with the help of Alan Bennett and the other directors. And financially now we're quite sound. And the Sports Council are more than happy with the present proceedings that we're operating at the moment. So there's, I'm not quite sure of the number of clubs, but it's something like about 130 clubs, I think, in the whole of Wales. And there's stacks and stacks of boxing going on. There's not a Friday goes by without a boxing tournament. And I mean, this month in particular has been very busy because we've had our own Welsh Championships last weekend with the British Championships. This weekend we've got the Welsh Schoolboy Championships. And the following weekend then we've got the semi-finals and the finals. So yeah, we're very, very busy. And boxing is booming.
We're here in Caerphilly Amateur Boxing Club today, gym run by John Scriven. It's absolutely packed. I mean, did you still get a sort of warm feeling inside when you see a gym full of young potential boxers?
Oh yeah, it's lovely to come in and see something like this. And a lot of gyms are quite busy at the moment, mind. But I don't think there's one as busy as this lot. This is the busiest gym I've seen. And everything's being run perfectly well here. Good trainers, and the gym is a lovely gym.
What sort of positive impact on the local community do you think a gym like this has?
I think it'll have a big impact because a lot of kids don't want to play football, they don't want to play rugby. And with all the boxing that's on TV now these days, an awful lot of kids want to box. And now we're taking kids in at 8 and 9 years of age, only to train. They are taking part in, not contests, but in bouts on like exhibition type of thing. Skills, as we call it, skills bouts, which we never had previously, but kids of 8, 9 and 10 are now. And there's an awful lot of these kids about. Any show you go to now, you can be guaranteed the first 2 or 3 bouts will be skills bouts with these kids, which we never had previously.
I mean, what changes would you like to see in amateur boxing, not just in Wales, just across the globe? And what are the challenges facing amateur boxing over the next 12, 24 months, etc.?
What would I like to see?
Yeah, I mean, well, what challenges face amateur boxing? Obviously, you got white collar boxing, unlicensed boxing, mixed martial arts. You got other sports as well. I mean, what are the different challenges facing amateur boxing
There's an awful lot of martial arts going on now, and that has definitely affected our sport. I'm sure of that. Because if you go around the sports centres, 9 out of 10 you'll find there's a martial arts class there. And they're always fairly full. I go to the one, I don't go to it, but I visit now and then, just have a look what's going on in the Rhondda and Aberdare area, and they are doing very well. And that is, I don't think that white collar is affecting us. I'm amazed that so many people go and pay £30 and £40 to go and watch two guys who's only been training for a couple of weeks, trying to knock lumps out of each other, when they can come and watch a nice, tidy amateur boxing tournament where the kids have been taught to box to the rules for £5 or £10.
But do you think that is a problem in the way that amateur boxing is sort of promoted and the way it's pushed out there to the public?
Yeah, I think so. We need more publicity, and we've also got a new general manager now, Colin Metson, who's doing a good job, and he's doing a lot of advertising on Facebook for us, which we never had before. He's letting the public know what's on and where it is, what the cost is and all the rest of it. So things have improved tremendously there as well. And we're not overcharging. He's talking about going in and watching, 12, 13, 14 contests for £10. You get a night out for £10, plus a couple of drinks. You don't get that with white collar boxing.
And finally, Tony, last word. I mean, what message have you got for John and the people here at Caerphilly Amateur Boxing Club?
Keep up the good work, boy. He's doing a hell of a good job here. I mean, most people around here know him as well for what he is, and everybody speaks well of him. And I think having come here today and seen what's going on, yeah, first class job.
Cheers, Tony. Lovely. Great. That was excellent.